Is Italian an easy language to learn? Or is it difficult to learn? Well, I've been learning Italian for 2 months now, and in this video I'm going to share with you my experiences learning Italian. Keep watching. Hey everyone, my name is Jan van A and you're watching Language Boost, the channel for your language learning tips, tricks, and of course motivation. In this video we're going to talk about Italian. For those of you who are following me, you probably know that I've been on a mission to learn Italian up until a conversational level in just 2 months. I already do speak some Spanish, Portuguese and French, so learning Italian shouldn't be too difficult, right? Well, let's dive into this. So first of all, is Italian easy? Well, for who, right? If you already speak English, either as your native language or as a second language, then yeah, probably Italian is going to be much easier for you than Japanese or Chinese or any other language that's not related. You have lots of vocabulary that's similar in Italian and English. Now, for example, words like minuto or futuro, nativo, paradiso, senso, temperatura. I guess you can just guess the meaning of these words just by hearing it, right? Lots of vocabulary is similar. And then if you already speak Spanish or French or Portuguese, you notice that verbs are often very similar as well. Let's take a look at the word for to sing, for example, which is cantar in Spanish, cantar in Portuguese as well, chanter in French, and then cantare in Italian, right? Then you have also words that are maybe not so similar to the other Roman languages, like for example, manger in French, to eat. Then in Italian, it's mangiare, which is pretty similar, but then in Portuguese and in Spanish is comer. So, it's not necessarily always the same, but in general, I think that, most of the vocabulary that you have to learn, at least as a beginner, you can relate to the vocabulary that you already have in the other Romance languages if you already speak them, right? And if not, then there is quite a big chance that vocabulary is similar to vocabulary in English. Now, another thing that I find really difficult in Italian is the articles and prepositions. So first of all, you have more articles in Italian than in Spanish, for example. Now I have to take a look at my screen here. So the articles in Italian, il, lo, le, la, I, li, and le. And the preposition is also really difficult because in Italian, if you say I'm going to school, you don't say I go to school, but you have to say I go to the school. And then this to the becomes one word in Italian. So for example, the word for off in Italian is either del, dello, del, della, dei, degli, delle, depending on the article it refers to, right? And the same for a word like in English we just have in, but in Italian it's nel, nello, nel, nella, niei. I think you pronounce it negli, nelle. It's a little bit confusing, I know, I'm sorry, but this is the same thing that I'm struggling with right now. Now, pronunciation in Italian is really easy. Most of the time when you see the word, you know how to pronounce it. So it's not like French, for example, where you can pronounce certain syllables different ways. That's not the case in Italian. Now, the difficult thing about Italian pronunciation, I think, is the melody of the language. So Italian, has its own rhythm, and I think that this rhythm even varies for different regions in Italy. And as a foreigner, I think it's quite tricky to get that intonation, like the melody, the rhythm of the language, right. So that's something else I'm still struggling with. Another thing which is pretty tricky, if you already speak other Romance languages and then just think, okay, I'm going to learn Italian, no problem, because I already speak Spanish and Portuguese, it's actually that you're going to use Spanish and Portuguese words, right? So, just communicating, I don't think is very difficult, and I think that you can learn a lot in 1 or 2, let's say 3 months, and yeah, you will be able to communicate. But then, you know, reaching a level or actually speaking, you know, without too many mistakes and not mixing Italian up with Spanish and Portuguese, find that pretty tricky. So, you know, if I don't know words in Italian, I can just use a word, use the Portuguese word, and then oftentimes, you know, it works, but it's not always correct. So communicating is not so difficult, but speaking correctly, that's still quite a big challenge for me, which is not very strange because I've only been learning the language for 2 months so far, right? So how much time does it take to learn Italian? It really depends if you already do speak other Romance languages or not. I've uploaded a video where you can see me speaking Italian after just 1 month, and you know, I was able to, of course I made mistakes, but I was able to hold spontaneous conversation with limited vocabulary. I do think that if you don't speak a Romance language yet, that you need a little bit more time, maybe 2 or 3 months to reach that level. You know, but if you really want to become fluent in Italian, yes, Italian is a different language, right? It's not Spanish, it's not French. And if you really want to sound like an Italian or almost semi-Italian, like someone at least who has learned Italian to a very high level, you need to spend more time. I always do think that it's important that you get to a level where you can hold conversation as soon as possible, because then you can really start enjoying the language, right? You can basically just improve by speaking practice and, well, lots of listening and reading as well eventually, right? Now, how do I see Italian compared to Spanish and Portuguese, French in terms of difficulty? Okay, so having studied all the 4, it's not all the 4, but by having studied these 4 Romance languages, I do think that Spanish is probably the simplest, easiest to learn. I think the grammar is the most straightforward. Then probably Portuguese. I think pronunciation in Portuguese is probably a little bit trickier than in Spanish, but grammatically I would say it's quite similar in terms of difficulty. And then then probably, I don't know which one is more tricky, still hard for me to say, French or Italian. I think that French has very challenging grammar. Pronunciation is more difficult. It's not a phonetic language, so the way you write a word and the way you pronounce it is not always the same. You don't have that in Italian. But on the other hand, in Italian you have more articles, more different articles. And you know, also this subjunctivo, for example, in Italian, it's pretty tricky. You use it more often in Italian than in the other languages. So if you want to say, I think that he that he is, then this is, you have to use the subjunctivo, which makes it a little bit more tricky for beginners like me to get started. Now, how much have I really learned in these 2 months? I'm going to share that with you in another video this week. I'm going to record a video with my teacher, Stefano, who is native Italian, and then you're going to actually see me having a conversation 100% in Italian after just 2 months. Well, if you're also interested in learning Italian, then I would say go to our website. We have boost camps Italian for people who want to actually focus on speaking. So if you want to become conversational in a new foreign language in Italian, then make sure to check that out as well. That was it for now. Thanks for watching and see you soon here at Language Boost. Ciao, ciao.